Shy Yeti.
Hello, Moses.
How are you? Hope you're fine. This is the Shy Yeti show.
Okay, where you go?
Why have I got a voice?
Oh no.
Oh, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
Oh, there's gonna be some drama ahead.
All I wanted was a pie, and then I hatched out of an egg.
Okay, bring the mic over. He's ready to record.
Is it metaphorical? Is it deep?
Oh, your show's getting so international, Paul.
Boy, he's not all that shy as bright.
Blimey, Governor. It's the Shy Life Podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Hello, Paul.
I don't know how he's done it.
775.
Bonjour et bienvenue au podcast The Shy Life.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Shy Life Podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti. How are you doing? I'm alright. So what's the episode going to be about? Well, we're heading back to Australia and birthday twin Andy's here. Hi, birthday twin
Hello.
Andy.
Hello, Paul.
Hello,
Thanks for having me back. We're again.
We're back down under, but we're heading back to the 70s.
Quite a way.
Yeah, well,
to the Albert Memorial Hospital.
Yeah, which is basically Young Doctors, which we have. I think when we did an episode where we talked about the first episode,
we mentioned it.
Yeah, we definitely have talked about it. But I've been watching a lot more, so I wanted to dive into it a bit more. So let's run that theme music, and when we come back, we'll go and get checked out down at the Albert Memorial. Right, run that theme music.
Darling, it's the Shy Life Podcast.
My favorite person is here.
Keep it rolling, keep it rolling.
Yes, but it's positive thinking. The highlight, the Shy Life.
Go Shy Yeti.
I'll go anyway, let's take it.
Hello, Captain. How are you?
Oh, I've never found out my secret. What do you have?
I love the Yeti. It's my favorite thing.
If you thought that was bad, just listen to this.
Yeah, I am strangely drawn to Yeti Uncle John's ankles as well.
I could eat my body weight in crisps.
Has anyone seen my hot sausage?
It's all gooey and meaty and yum, 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 yum.
It was enormous.
I don't think I'm ready to speak about it.
It's been a while.
That's right. Here comes the grizzly.
It's the Shy Life Podcast.
I can't wait for it to begin.
That's right. I'm just being an alien.
I'm right, man.
Hi there.
Marvelous, Paul.
Oh, the back, no, massive
So, I've been watching that box set, Collection 1, which has the first 250 episodes.
Which is it's teased us because we kind of want Collection 2, and
yeah.
I don't think it's going to come. Do you?
Well, won't they get to a point where they won't have anything else? They'll be desperate for things to release.
I did read something from it might be from and I might be making this up, so correct me if you know more, but is there like an Australian television archive that wants to digitize everything and get it all available online, and they're the ones who are like, I mean, I suppose like people in Britain are hunting for lost episodes of Morecambe and Wise and Doctor Who and all of that. They're the ones in Australia that are doing the same equivalent, and I'm sure I read something that said that there's all of the Young Doctors is there. Maybe there's one or two episodes missing within it, but it's mostly there, and they were working hard behind the scenes to try and get something done. But I think it's probably more likely it would be available as a streaming thing rather than you can buy it on DVD, because I think Viavision, if we can mention them, I think they've given up with it. sadly.
Because number 96 is being streamed in Australia at the moment.
Yeah,
But
I'd love to watch that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had my fingers crossed because it let me form an account, and then when I went to click on it, it went, "Oh no, not available in this country." Well, why did you even let me go on?
I think you need to, and they told me to do this if you didn't have Prisoner on DVD. Before the Channel 5 started streaming it, I think you can set up a VPN, which then anonymizes. Maybe one of your other listeners could write in and tell you, ring in and tell you or something. Yeah, maybe we'll get a random phone call from one of the other people telling you how to do it.
I've heard about VPNs, so I don't know much about you doing them in practice.
And it's nothing to do with wearing tight clothing and people seeing her. So it's VPN, and I think if you do that, then I think you can say you're in Australia, and then you'd be able to download it, but it'll stream it or whatever. But it's annoying, isn't it? They should just make things available everywhere. I mean,
because I haven't I've got all of the what came out on DVD of number 96, but I haven't watched it all because I was always hoping there'd be more. So a bit like with this Young Doctors one, I've had this Young Doctors set. I've had it hoping that collection 2, and I just gave up, and I'm starting. I only just.
But you've now watched it, and the bit that really. Sorry, go on.
Well, I'm on episode. I was watching episode 167, so I've still got. I've still got. Well. Yeah, I've still got some to watch, but it's a bit sort of Moorish, and
for me,
easily watch a disc a night.
And for me, what's really frustrating, particularly with that box set, is once it finishes, they were just on the cusp of some really good episodes, and one episodes I really vividly remember. It must have been because I was thinking back, and I'm sure we spoke about this before, but it was I'm definite it was February '83 when Central started showing the Young Doctors and Sons and Daughters, and it was Young Doctors Monday, Tuesday, Sons and Daughters Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'm certain that I must have got into it through the summer holidays one year because I'm not sure I would have been home in time from school to see it at 3:20.
I can't remember. All I can remember is that I think I was already into Sons and Daughters, but by now this is the early 90s. About 1990, I started watching Sons and Daughters.
Yeah, see, that's 10 years later than I, because maybe TVS was showing it a bit later than Central.
Yeah, and I started. It was about 1985 episodes by then, and
right.
And I think it took me a while. I must have just seen a particular episode that made me click of Young Doctors because I think I just thought it was. And particularly back in 1990, anything where it was just like, I just thought it was going to be like some Mills and Boone type rubbish, and but I didn't realise that there was and then I saw an episode I think with like somebody doing nasty phone calls and stuff, and that was
yes,
like, no.
And then you realised who it was playing it.
But, well, it wasn't the nasty phone calls of the box set. They must have reused that plotline. I think there must be another nasty phone call around the 1981. I think it was 1981. Right. So I think I had about a year worth because it finished in 83. But I don't know how many episodes. I don't know if that was.
See, for me, because it was only on 2 days a week, it took a long time for them to show it in the Midlands, and I think probably by the time it was there, I'd kind of given up watching it. So my memories of it, really, of loving it and thinking this is really good in a kind of corny way, because I think even by the early 80s, it seemed really dated and it seemed really old fashioned, and the clothes and the hairstyle. I remember like when the nurses would get out of their uniforms on an evening and go out socially, they were all in these big gowns and this kind of Farrah Fawcett style flowing hair, and even by then those fashions were like, oh my god, they're hideous.
Well, I remember that I was never that big a fan of kids TV even when I was a kid, but I do remember what episodes of Sesame Street I saw were like really seriously old. If I saw them in the early 80s, I think they were still probably showing early 70s
Early
episodes.
70s, yeah.
And it looked really, I was like...
And I kind of think it does make you realise how in kind of, not just in fashions, but probably in like attitudes as well, things really did change from the 70s to the 80s. And you really see that in the Australian programmes, because I think even in the first, I hate calling it this, the first season of Prisoner feels very different from the later ones, simply because of the way it looks, the clothing, the hairstyles, the scenery, some of the attitudes, some of the dialogue as well. Feels like life changed. It was almost like a switch, maybe, when 1980 things changed quite a lot.
Although Australia was doing more outrageous things in their soaps than they were doing in the UK.
And Young Doctors is a classic example of that. I mean, I know, like you said, we spoke previously about those first episodes, and isn't the opening scene one of the doctors and one of the nurses on a bed drinking champagne and getting on down?
Yeah.
I mean, for even that's quite racy for 3 o'clock in the afternoon, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the ones that were more racy were evening shows like Number 96 and The Box, which I do have going back. I know, as usual, listeners, you're following my thoughts as they bang around in my head, going in different directions. But I do have, if they don't release any more Young Doctors, then I have got some Cop Shop box sets which you encouraged me to get, and I got at least one of the box. So I will watch everything I have, and then I can think about, do I want to get more Cop Shop or whatever.
If you watch some Cop Shop, we must do an episode about that, because I'd love to hear what you think of some of the because that was quite interesting how they filmed that. It was almost like two things at once, because you'd got the kind of interactions between the what would be the main cast, the police officers, the regulars, the people, they're kind of immediate families. But then you've also got the kind of, I suppose you could call it like crime of the week, because obviously it's a cop shop, so there's criminals, and what you'd have in each episode is like guest artists, and this is where you start to see all of the names and the faces that you recognise from all the other shows coming in, being a bank robber or a bank robber's wife or somebody with a gun, and you think, that's such and such that was in the other program, and all those guest artists. That's like the it's like the crime of the week that they're trying to solve, or that's the big issue at that moment. And they usually get 2 episodes. Those stories. Some of them are stretched over 4, so it must have been like over 2 weeks, because I guess it's 2 episodes a week, and you kind of get that. There's the ongoing soapiness of the main characters, but you've also got those really short, sharp stories. Of the crimes and what's happening and what's kind of going on and the victims, and it's really good. You can just dip in and out of it.
Going back to Young Doctors, I find that I'm particularly enjoying it because it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen next. And I'm trying to think, is that not the case with Sons and Daughters or Prison? I'm trying to think.
No, Sons and Daughters had lots of twists, didn't it?
Yeah, it had lots of twists, but I guess you kind of know. You know who the main characters are until they leave. Whereas on Young Doctors, people vanish for weeks and come back again. And actually, what I've noticed is that on the title sequence, I don't really understand why it's like this, but often they seem to credit somebody who's not in the episode who is going to be in the next episode. I can't see could be a mistake, because it's not just once. It's like, for instance, when Abigail from Sons and Daughters in number 96 came into it, she wasn't in an episode, but then I just happened to notice her in the
She
titles.
was on the opening titles.
Well, she was in the end. Well, she was on the end titles, just a name, and then sure enough,
okay,
she was in the next episode.
I mean, if you watch the kind of the opening of it, maybe we should describe a bit of this for your listeners as well. So the kind of original opening titles is it's quite a standard thing in production, isn't it? Where you've got like an intercut, so you've got all the doctors and nurses at this. How would you describe it? Is it like a nightclub that's opposite the hospital?
It's
Bunny's Place?
Yeah, Bunny's.
Restaurant, nightclub?
Yeah, sort of restaurant, sort of cabaret bar.
Kind of thing. It's a bit of something for everybody. So you've got this footage of them all dancing and drinking and partying and even maybe some of them canoodling a little bit. And that is all intercut with their day job of them being doctors and nurses. But there is for quite a long time a little flash of Abigail in it because and we'll probably come on to talk about this character, but there's an interesting character who's a bit of a pop star who he comes into it because he's actually a patient in the hospital. And there's just a little flash of Abigail and then him being the kind of pop star on stage. And for ages you think, who are these people?
Although you have seen Abigail before because she was that tennis star secretary. So she and then when that plot ends, he eventually something bad happens.
Well, he gets stabbed. He gets stabbed, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bizarre storyline in itself. That somebody would be stabbed in a hospital, and it's one of the nurses. Sorry for giving away spoilers, but it's nearly 50 years ago.
There's lots of weird plot lines we'll come on to, which is one of the reasons obviously I like it. I mean, by episode 167, the titles have changed once, and yes, they include that little flash of the pop star, but then they've not been seen for weeks. I don't know if
I know, and it's just like, why did you? And I think they do the same with Helen's son Roger as well. I think he comes into the titles, and he's so rarely in it. I mean, it's quite memorable when he is in it, but it's almost like I wonder why they picked. I suppose one of the things that I kind of feel with the early Young Doctors is that they were clearly trying to capture the teen market, or trying to kind of get some quite good-looking young people into it to kind of give it a bit of a buzz, to give it a bit of attention, and really hook the viewers in, maybe. So perhaps that's why some of the more glamorous people are involved in the opening titles.
At least one of the doctors was a teenage heartthrob.
Yes.
Not that anyone's heard of him outside of Australia, I don't think.
But if it's the guy you're on about, I think even now if it's Mark Holden that you're on about, he's actually still a thing now, isn't he? Because hasn't he been the main presenter for Australian Idol or something like that?
Okay. Yeah.
I think maybe I might be wrong. Maybe
sort of like a David Cassidy of Australia or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he's quite well respected, and actually. I'm sure I read this somewhere, but so he's one of the original doctors, and I know we spoke about the first episodes before, where you get almost like a batch of new staff arriving at the hospital, and on a new group of trainee doctors, and he's one of them, and he's in this opening title sequence where you've got 1 minute he's kind of dancing and bopping away at this nightclub, and then you see him with a mask on or something in the theatre, and you realise actually he's not just a person in a bar, he's actually like a doctor. He actually left because he had a #1 hit or something, and he had to go and promote it, so the record company took him out of Young Doctors, and he had this kind of chart success for a few singles and went on a tour, and then they brought him back when that was over.
Yeah, I mean, at the point I'm at now, JoJo Adams is one of the first quite big nurses, and she's not been seen, and she's not even in the title sequence anymore, but they still keep mentioning, we talked to JoJo, so whether she will come back.
She does come back. She does come back, but it's not for very long, I don't think. But,
we've just got Gail Henderson as played by
Peter Tapano.
Yeah, from Prisoner, and I thought that she was gone, but then she just popped up.
She comes back again.
She came back, but then that was about 2 weeks ago. She came back for like 2 episodes after Bunnies, because the owner of Bunnies, by this point, his wife's just died in a car crash, and and they'd had some romantic connection.
The cheapest ever special effects, that car crash. Good grief! I mean, it's like. Are they trying to argue it's like one of? I mean, I suppose Sydney's a bit more tropical than sort of Melbourne, and I think they're trying to argue that it's got a typical Sydney torrential rainstorm or something like a what would they call it, like a monsoon or something, and horrendously bad road conditions, and you just see Jim and God, what's she called?
Well,
Mrs. Jim in the car, and then it's like. And then all of a sudden, is she she's somehow she's either gone through the windscreen or the car doors flung, and then she's just lying there on the ground. Maureen,
yeah. It reminds me of some of the things not to that level, but reminds me of the sort of things I do on my Sutton Park back in the day. I try and achieve cliffhangers that were all like. But there was a chalk pit near us in Salisbury, and I tried to make it look like one of us was being pushed off the top. But obviously, when we fell off, we were much lower than it looked. But I was always trying to do little things like that to try, or I tried to do a stunt on my bike once and fall off it. But I had to do a bit like they did, sort of wiggle the camera around, make it look like I'd fallen off, because obviously I wasn't a stuntman, and I didn't even have another cameraman, so I couldn't even do a long shot. So I kind of, watching that car crash, it kind of made me think, yeah, but they've tried to do it, they've totally failed, but at least they tried.
At least they've tried, and there's all this. Oh, that rain's horrendous. And pity anyone that's out tonight, and you just think you know what's coming. The fact that they're even mentioning the fact that there's this really heavy rainstorm suggests that someone's going to have an accident.
And also,
it's a hospital. Come on.
Yeah, and also they just made up. Because they've been going through a bad patch.
Yeah.
They just made up, and then within about 20 minutes, she was dead.
So, I mean, you mentioned already that it dealt with some quite racy issues, and I mean, yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because for the benefit of people who haven't seen any of the episodes or have got no idea what we're on about, Jim and Maureen have had a bit of an issue because she'd gone overseas with her mother or something, and he'd had an affair with one of his colleagues.
Yeah,
and isn't this where the colleague actually gets pregnant?
Well, yeah, Gail gets pregnant, but she does. But she ends up losing it.
And then she faces the whole kind of dilemma of being an unmarried mother and work. You know, can she continue working at the Albert Memorial Hospital as an unmarried mother? And it's you just think, wow, this really is a different era to where we are today. And her miscarriage is quite. It's quite shocking, I thought, where you actually see her kind of miscarrying the baby, and you just think, wow, this is quite serious emotional stuff, isn't it?
I think we'll go and look at some of the characters, because looking at the characters is the best way to be reminded of some of the plot lines as well, because they always have, which I approve of, because on the Shy Life podcast, the storylines, I always think, okay, what plot line would so-and-so like, or would be good for this character? So, and I think they do that in the Young Doctors. They kind of give everybody a good plot line. And it's not just about, here's the plot line, right, let's stick this person there. It is very much character based, which that's good. So we'll have a little musical interlude, and when we come back, we'll start talking about some of the characters and their plot lines.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, there are characters that are in it all the way through, but we'll start with some of the big characters.
Big hitters.
The big hitters, yeah. One of the few that do make it all the way through is Dr. Graham Steele, played by Tim Page. He was in it because it started in late '76 and ran to '83. But
I love his character.
Yeah.
I think he's portrayed as such an interesting character, isn't he? Because I guess to start with, he's almost like he's a bit frosty maybe with a lot of his colleagues. Doesn't really talk much about himself, and the rest of them all sort of laugh at him a little bit and think he's a bit of a nerd, and he's very into his processes and quite bossy and quite snappy with people at times. But you begin to see that change a little bit with him.
Yeah. And well, you kind of see he's a bit naive, although he's very sort of with his job, he's very
good at his job, but actually doesn't really have the people skills and actually all the life experience.
But then at least twice in the box that as far as I've watched so far, he's been extremely close to two different women who have, for one reason or another, really sort of left him devastated. One of them was a singer who was
pop star Abby Singleton.
Yeah, because the bar Bunnies was run by a guy called Bunny who was in it for about the first 60 or so episodes. I actually that made me, when I was reading about that made me wonder, did he leave because Young Doctors was only going to run for about 65 episodes.
I think he didn't want to be in it long term. He was actually a British stand-up comedian or something called Ugly Dave somebody.
Was it Ugly Dave Bray or something like that?
Something like that. And he didn't want to be in it long term, so they killed him off with a heart attack. And we mentioned those opening titles. They actually, once he's dead, there was a couple of shots in the original footage of Bunny at the bar, kind of. He's like the host, and they're all there dancing and partying and having a good evening and something while the disco music's going. And there's a couple of shots at him at the bar, looking like I'm the barman and I'm pouring your drink, and then when he's dead, they've just edited those bits out, those quick sort of flashes of him, which I thought was quite funny. How he just was gone there 1 minute and gone the next. But so his son inherits the kind of
Jim, who we mentioned.
And one day, really randomly, this girl just turns up, doesn't she, from America? I think she's visiting Australia on tour, or does he knew her dad or something?
Yeah, but that's right. But Bunny knew her dad.
So she's come to Australia, back in the UK. So he's come to Australia, and Mr. Singleton's gone to the States, and his daughter Abby arrives in Australia, and surprise, surprise, she's got a couple of nights on at Bunny's place doing her thing. And it's really quite cute, isn't it, how Graham Steele sort of falls in love with her the minute he sees her, becomes obsessed with her.
And she's played by a singer called Jewel
Blanche.
Who I looked at, and I looked online about, and she did have
a bit of a profile in Australia at the time, and I actually it was that. There's a song called Will I Ever Learn, which they keep playing over and over again, and it must be played something like, I wonder if maybe it was on every time they played it she got paid or something, and or the producers were on a contract or something, because it's almost like every couple of episodes she starts singing Will I Ever Learn again. So I Shazammed it and found it, and you can actually download it on iTunes or whatever your music preference thing is, or your streaming service. And there's a whole album, and there's various other acts that turn up at Bunny's place. The Australian Squeeze come into an episode, and you see them, and they do a song, I think it's called Sweet Lady or something. Sweet Lady. That's on this album. There's also a woman singer called Julie Bower, who Dennis mentions as if we should know who she is. the couple of songs that she does at Bunny's Place are actually on this album as well.
And the executives who do the theme tune, they are in the show as a band who play as well.
The other track that's on the album, which isn't authentic to the show, we mentioned briefly the character of Georgie. What was his second name? Is it Georgie Starr or something? Or I want to say Georgie Fame, but it can't be.
No, Georgie Saint.
Georgie Saint. So the song that Georgie sings, which is "If I Had Time," which is when he finds out he's got a brain tumor or something, and Roger writes him this song, and they play it, and it's like an acoustic song. That's on the album as well, but it's somebody else singing it.
But doesn't Abby Singleton die of a brain tumor? Basically, if you're a singer, you're going
to die.
Get checked out
at your local hospital. So
yeah.
This album that I found, it's called Living Sound, and it's from 1978, which is actually about a year after the songs were all on the Young Doctors. But it's there. There's 14 tracks, and if you've watched the show, might be worth streaming it, listening to it, because some of the songs are on there, which I thought was interesting.
Because it lists that Georgie Saint still appears into 78 and 79 recurring,
right?
And that Abigail ends up playing his manager, and she's listed as being in it up until 78 as a recurring character. So that's beyond the box set. So presumably that they'll be back beyond the point that I'll be able to be watching. But
so we mentioned we were started with Dr. Steele, didn't we?
Yeah.
So he has that little relationship with Abby, which is really, I don't. Did they actually say it was a brain tumor that she died of? It was some medical condition, but
yeah, it could be the heart thing.
It's. I know she's taking tablets.
Quick,
I know this. Yeah, it's not really.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah. And really, and doesn't he end up with a guitar or something? And it's quite heartbreaking when you see him, because he's fallen in love with this girl, and bizarrely she's actually in love with him as well, which I'm not sure how realistic that would be. But then she dies, and then he's just left with a guitar and this song, "Will I Ever Learn?" And it's just really sad, isn't it?
Yeah, and can't think of other plot lines he has, because I know there's one that particularly comes to mind, but as we were saying, he has a very serious persona at times, but then a very soft underneath that shell's quite thin. Underneath, he's quite a softie with the right person.
And it's lovely when he meets is it Eve, who then becomes his wife, because they have quite a good relationship going. She's a new sister that arrives at the hospital, and has she come from New Zealand, or
she's not arrived at the point I'm watching? But
okay, sorry.
No. I mean, well,
you'll get there. It's really good. It's really good that the kind of interplay between them, and you can kind of see after the tragedy that he's been through with losing Abby, when Eve comes into the show. What triggered me to say that was you saying that he does have this harsh shell persona, but he is a bit of a softie underneath, and you start to see that with Eve. But when it comes out that she's actually a widow, and is quite a wealthy widow, that's a bit of a thing as well, because he's like, I'm marrying a woman who's already had a husband, and you just think that really just shows the attitudes of the time, doesn't it?
But he also has that plot line where he gets very close to a character called Glenda Stacy, who I got very excited about because she was played by Julianne Newbold, who I knew from Prisoner. But I can't remember who was it she played in Prisoner.
She was Hannah Simpson, and then towards the end she was Wendy, the cop, the undercover cop, who is in with Lisa Mullins. Yeah. Wendy Glover.
I think it's her first appearance. Isn't that sort of when she's first in Prisoner? Isn't that sort of around the time the Freak first?
Yeah. And there's a bit of a the Freak kind of makes a bit of a move on her, doesn't she? And she said, "I'm going to have you," or something, and puts the leather gloves on, and it's wow, that's quite in your face, isn't it?
But she was playing a criminal this time as well. That's enjoyable in itself. The whole.
So it's interesting that the male doctor that's the one that's maybe the nerd the thing that sprung into my head was like 40-year-old virgin. It's like that stereotype, isn't it, of the male that's he's been a bit of a mummy's boy and he's never had a girlfriend, and everybody thinks he's a bit of a dork, and but then actually once he falls in love with a woman, then it's like it's all the barriers are down, isn't it? And I think that's interesting how they play that out.
Glenda Stacy is part of a gang, and one of the other members of the gang ends up in the hospital, and he the guy in the hospital blames Dr. Steele for him even being there, and obviously the police know that he's a criminal, and kind of tells Glenda that she needs to kill him, and she's kind of gonna. So there's lots of. Well, she dresses up as a nurse at one point.
That's
and
right. Yes,
she's stalking around the hospital, but then she realizes that maybe he's a bit of a soft touch, and she can get some money out of him.
It's quite creepy. That I remember that scene of her being dressed as the nurse. It is quite creepy, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly what I need in my TV show. So another character, I have to leave you, Graham, I'm sorry. Dr. Shaw, Dr. Raymond Shaw, played by Alfred Sander.
What do you think of him?
I didn't realise quite how oily he is with all the younger. I'd forgotten that.
He's like a. I don't know how old he is, because I mean we're in our 50s, Paul, and maybe he's in his 50s as well, but he feels a lot older than we are. But he's always got his little a fresh carnation in his suit jacket every day, and he is quite greasy to the young female staff, isn't he?
He was 64. Well, unfortunately, he died almost as soon as the show ended, and he was 64 then. So he's only in his 50s. Yes, he's only in his. He's a little bit older than us.
But he seems really old, and I mean. He was an American, wasn't he, that had come to Australia? And there's a really bizarre. I don't know whether you've reached this yet, but there's some bizarre story that somebody knows that in his history when he was in the States, that either his father or himself, there's some Nazi connection with World War II.
Yeah, Dr. Snape brings it up. We'll come to Dr. Snape, but it turns out that he was undercover, and he helped a lot of people. Who were being held by the Nazis, but he was undercover, like pretending to be one. So somebody's cut photos of him in Nazi uniform.
That's it.
But we don't know that immediately. We just there's one cliffhanger where you see him in the Nazi uniform when he was young.
Which to kind of think nowadays, to be at work with somebody who in the previous job was an undercover Nazi in World War II. That just shows how long ago this was filmed, because that's like it's coming up 100 years, isn't it?
Well,
I mean, we've just had the 80. Well, no, it's not 100 years. We've just had 80 years, haven't we, since VE Day?
Yeah, so it was about 30 years since the end of the war, roughly. When the war, because that's 45 it ended, and 55, 65, then it's something. Yeah, so it's about 30 years.
Yeah, this is the context of it. If you're working in that era, some of the people in your workplace that were probably getting on for retirement age would have lived through the war and would have worked through the war, and could quite easily have what was work like when you started here? Well, we were in the war, and it's like, wow, that's such a long time ago now, isn't it?
I looked at his acting career. He was in the States. He was known. Well, he appeared on the Phil Silvers show, but he is in a single episode of Dark Shadows, playing Sheriff George Patterson. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Dark Shadows, but I don't know that I noticed him.
You didn't.
It's been a while. It's been quite a while since I've watched it all from end to end. Anyway, but
I think for me, I struggle with some of the lines he says, and I struggle with some of the suggestions he makes to some of the female staff that are probably young enough, not just to be his daughter, but maybe even his granddaughter. Mm. But I do quite like him as well, because I think he's got a bit of charm, and I hope he was like a gentleman, and it was all bluster, and when he was chatting them up, he wasn't genuinely pestering them. He was just trying to be this nice old man who was, I mean, he's offering to take them out for dinner. It's not like
He's not always the young one. He does sort of.
Yeah.
He is like with Helen.
With Helen, yeah.
And he'll with somebody like Snape, he'll stand up for people against Snape, because Snape is
he's horrible, isn't he, Dr. Snape?
Yeah. But yeah, he was another one who was in it all the way through, but left due to ill health about 20 episodes before it finished.
Right, that's a shame, isn't it?
There were one or two of them who died quite young, including Michael Beecher, who played Dr. Brian Denham, who is another character who was in it all the way through, but he died in 1993. So he was.
Do you know who he reminds me of? Do you remember in Prisoner the woman who does the car thing where she runs the rapist down? The husband. He really reminds me of the husband in that. I know it's not the same actor, but the look, the voice is quite similar, and I think they've got that look about them. That kind of 70s blow wave, dark hair, and really piercing eyes, and quite smartly dressed all the time.
Yeah, he was only 53 when he died. So he's only in his 40s in the show, because he was involved in some of those plot lines when we talked about before. Because it was
didn't we? Where Laura's
his wife Laura goes through quite a lot of bizarre things, like she catches some tropical disease that
she does
completely changes her person.
Yeah, and which again, it's an interesting story, but I kind of think, would a tropical disease really change your personality? It's
but the point I'm at now, she's starting to, because she sort of is partly responsible for Snape, the character of Snape, coming into it, because she petitions for him to be.
That's right. She turns into like this real. I don't want to get political, but she comes across as like some kind of right wing do-gooder, doesn't she? Who's campaigning for things and
Margaret Thatcher. Wow. Margaret Thatcher Jr.
Yeah, she's like a Margaret. Yeah, that's exactly what she's like, and it's just all a bit strange, isn't it?
But I've learned to that the strange stuff on Young Doctors is what makes it so watchable. But so there's quite a lot of things where like Dr. Denham's marriage is sort of with Laura is sort of on wobbly footing, and then there's sort of various people that come in that they nearly break up.
And I suppose they were trying to show that if you work in a hospital, your personal life is affected by that, because you've got to work long hours, and you're around a lot of other people all day, and she's trying to be a wife to him, and he's not really got time for her, and I just think it's quite tragic, their marriage, in a way, isn't it? And obviously the bit we mentioned already was the fact that she leaves their young son with a babysitter and goes out and sleeps with someone else, and the kid basically runs out the house in the morning and gets knocked down, and I mean, that's an interesting plot twist in itself, isn't it? Because it turns out that the car that knocks him over is a way of introducing some other characters. Because you then get the woman who was in the car, who was the passenger, not the driver, trying to kill herself, and she ends up in the hospital as well, and that's how they bring her character in. She then ends up running Bunny's place, and it's her husband, isn't it, that was the driver that knocks down Toby Denham, that then comes back with a gun and holds them all hostage, which is then how Abby Singleton doesn't she overcome him or something? Yeah, she does some kind of New York maneuver.
I think that's when she first arrives.
So it's all intertwined and intertwisted, isn't it? It's very good.
Yeah. We mentioned Jim Howard, who is the son of Bunny. So he ends up sort of managing Bunny.
I know, that's random, isn't it? So like, your dad's a doctor and he runs the restaurant / nightclub / cabaret bar over the road. And then you can still be a full-time doctor and run that as well.
Although he always seems to be trying to close it. I mean, he always seems to be trying to get it closed. But but people keep going, no, it's really successful, don't close it. But he's Dr. Jim's in it until 79, so I don't know much more beyond what I've seen, which is mostly at the moment I'm watching it. He's hobbling around, still on crutches after the car crash.
After the car crash where Maureen dies, that's so sad as well, isn't it? Because they've just got back together, and she's kind of forgiven him for his affair with Gail, and then Gail's lost the baby, and then sadly she dies in this tropical rainstorm car crash.
Yeah. Then we've got characters like Greg Mason, Dr. Greg Mason. He's the one played by Mark Holden, who he's the pop star, isn't he? And
he's like the heartthrob doctor, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's sort of he ends up vanishing, then he ends up coming back, and then
he realizes he's not really cut out to be a doctor.
And Abigail recruits him to join the company. That she works for. And so he goes off. It's all kind of weird because he's like, I just want to tell them that he's leaving, but he's just saying, I'm going on holiday somewhere. And I don't quite, I guess it's to kind of don't know whether he had 2 weeks on his contract or something. They needed to kind of.
Yeah, they probably just brought him back. And as I said, I'm sure I read that the reason he was out of it for so long, but he was still on the opening titles and still on the credits, was because they'd had to release him because his song had done so well in the charts.
Yeah.
He'd had to do a tour of Australian cities, and he couldn't stay filming, so they had to release him for that.
It does say he comes back in 1981.
Right.
So, which we won't see for the moment. The other sort of heartthrob doctor is Dr. Craig Rothwell, played by John Walton, and he's sort of in it, and then suddenly he's not in it, and I don't know if that's him gone now. But if people keep mentioning like he's around.
He's quite a greasy character as well, isn't he? In fact, he's the one in the first scene. He's kind of got the nurse into bed with the champagne on the. It's almost like they're on the operating table, isn't it? And then he's like, next day he's like at a different hospital with a different nurse. It's like, you sleazeball, but he is a bit of a. Is it? Well, I don't know what you'd call him. But he is a bit of a. He's a bit greasy, isn't he?
And he gets sort of recruited by that rich. There's a. I'm trying to find her name. There's a woman who's got a rich father, and they want.
Yes.
They want.
Gosh, and the rich father is blah 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 blah. It's an actor called. Is it James Condon? And was he the husband of Anne Haddy?
Anne Haddy, yeah. Yeah, he's back in it because
he's been in everything.
Yeah, and he's turned up with a goatee beard in the episodes I'm watching now. He's right. Just trying to find the name of because this is all going on now long since he was because the daughter is
she's useless, isn't she? And don't they get her a job in the hospital as a nurse, and she keeps making really silly mistakes, and it's like, you are not cut out to be a nurse.
But they only give her the job because in a will, somebody said that she'll have £1 million, but if she sticks
it for a year as a nurse. In fact, isn't it the grandfather that dies?
Yeah, grandfather dies.
Didn't he help set the hospital up or something?
Something like that.
I seem to think. And he's like, you won't be able to do this. You're so lazy, you can't stick at a job for a year, and she has to do it.
Is it Deborah Kendall? Deborah
Kendall, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because she sort of comes and goes, and at the moment she's back in it, although she's only listed as being in the 1977 episodes. But yeah, it's sort of they do sort of have overlapping characters that come in for one reason, and then actually like Abigail's character, sort of there originally with because the tennis player that she's managing, he's played by Noel Trevathan.
Yes, who's quite a well-known actor, isn't he?
He's definitely been in Neighbours. I remember him from Neighbours.
I think he's in Prisoner as well, a short role as maybe like a detective or somebody. Anyway, I'm sure he's got a couple of scenes in an episode. That's quite a ridiculous storyline as well, isn't it? Where he gets stabbed.
Yeah, and
in the hospital,
and then he eventually gets murdered, and that's what I still can't quite work out because one of the nurses is implicated, and Dr. Rothwell kind of covers for her, and I can't, even though the plotline's finished, I can't really remember quite who.
Yeah, and it's almost like whether she did it or not's irrelevant. She's our friend, and we have to cover for her. And you just think this is maybe somebody who's murdered one of the patients. Why would you cover that up? Surely, if you thought it was her or knew it was her, you'd be like straight on. I don't know. Yeah, I don't get that.
But she's currently working back at the hospital now in the episodes I'm watching. So I presume that means she didn't do it.
Come back. All is forgiven.
I can't quite remember who did do the murder now.
I think she actually did do it, but I think they decide because they're friends with her that she can't go to prison. It's not fair.
Or maybe the crime of passion, or maybe was it manslaughter? I don't know.
Yeah. He said the wrong thing to her, so she stabbed him. That's not a reason for her to be arrested. It's quite funny. There is one. Sorry, I was just going to mention with with Craig. There is one storyline that I find really, again, it's quite creepy. Sister Scott, who you've not mentioned yet, she's actually raped in the car park on one episode, but they never use the R word. They just say that she's been attacked, and I thought that was quite. I think Cornelia Francis plays the role really well, but the fact they couldn't use the word rape, obviously, it detracts from it. But she acts it really. She acts it to the best of what they'd allow her to do. But there's a really bizarre storyline where there's some suggestion that because she's been raped, she can't be intimate with a man again, and Dr. Rothwell takes her out for a date and persuades her that she'll get over being raped if somehow she relaxes and spends time with a man, and it's almost like he gets her into bed, and then somehow she's cured of it.
Sure enough, she's fine. Yeah.
She's fine, and it's like, it doesn't matter that I was raped because I'm still a woman and I can still make love to a man. And it's like, really? That's the way that you support people who've been raped, by getting them into bed?
Yeah, it's like some of the it's like some of the things in Sons and Daughters where you think
it hasn't aged well.
No. We've sort of talked a bit about Dr. Gail Henderson, played by Peta Topano. Yeah, I mean it's mainly to do with Jim, and then she gets pregnant, and then she kind of leaves, and now she's suddenly come back again.
Yeah. And it's this thing about the stigma of being an unmarried mother, isn't it? I mean, I know she loses the baby, so they deal with miscarriage as well, and the kind of grief that you'd have from that. But that whole thing about, well, we can't really have someone working in the hospital who's having a child out of wedlock. That can't be done. That's not professional. Even though they didn't say that to the doctor, who'd actually made it. It's all on her, isn't it? She shouldn't have got pregnant. It's like, wow, really? Who else is in the other? Do you want to mention maybe some of the nurses? Yeah, I was just going to very quickly to some of the characters that to the point I've got to, but without going into so much detail. There was Dr. Paul Barrett who came in. Oh, okay, yeah. He was working in the bar, and it turned out he thought he was a doctor. He there were lots of hints that he knew about being a doctor, it turned out he thought he'd murdered somebody, but actually when they looked into it, the person wasn't dead, so he hadn't. And then he went back to Is it Switzerland? Yeah, but his wife was having an affair with the guy he thought he'd murdered, and and when he found out that he hadn't murdered, I think he went back to his wife. His wife had him back, even though his wife was anyway. But you didn't even meet you didn't meet any of these other characters because they were in Switzerland. But which then reminded me that they use the Switzerland. I mean, I don't think the Dignitas clinic was there then, but Switzerland is a convenient thing in Sons and Daughters as well, isn't it? Where doesn't one of the characters go to Switzerland to like to a hospice or something because he's dying and he doesn't want to be seen dying, so he goes to Switzerland to do it over there. And you just think maybe Grundy's had a Switzerland deal or something. Yeah. We've got Dr. John Somerville, Dr. Tony Garcia, who Tony, he was really good. He died really young, didn't he? The actor that played Tony.
Yeah, he was only 40. Yeah.
And he was in Prisoner as well. He plays the rapist at the halfway house that attacks the girl that thinks it's Trevor next door.
Then there's people, because you sort of get, as the box set goes through, you sort of get into the second wave of young doctors
of the new ones. Have you seen Tony's father yet? Because that's
I keep hearing about him because he's supposed to be rich and a bit of a snob. And Tanya's like, because Tanya, who's sort of been dating him a bit, overhears him saying, "I don't think my father would approve. She's a bit common," sort of thing.
Yeah. So basically, they get an Australian actor to, what would you call it? You know, you've got like blackface, yellow face. What would you call Spanish face? So basically, they put a bit of tan on somebody in a pair of dark glasses and dye his hair jet black, and he speaks with this Spanish accent, and he's supposed to have come direct from Andalusia. And it's like, this is like something from Acorn Antiques.
I just saw,
a really bad Spanish accent.
I just saw an episode today, and it made me wonder: is it going to go? You see Laura Denham going to see her psychiatrist or counsellor or therapist, whatever term they use, and you've heard about that she's been going there, but for some reason in this episode, you see from the back of the man's head looking towards Laura, and I'm thinking there's got to be some reason that this psychiatrist
film from the back of the head.
Yeah, there must be some reason that they've introduced the character in an actual scene. Is he going to turn out to be somebody else, or is he going to turn out? Yeah. I'm kind of hoping that they're going to rip themselves. Well, they wouldn't be ripping themselves off because they haven't done. I'm kind of hoping that he's going to hypnotize her to kill somebody like they did in Prisoner, but I don't know that happens. But
do you know, I can't remember, and I don't think it does. But
probably not. No. But,
when Tony's father comes into it, Antonio, I can't believe you're with this woman, and it's like, that's a Spanish accent. I mean, I'm not very good at accents anyway, but like, Antonio, you have disgraced your family. It's like, that's not a Spanish accent. But anyway, Laura actually ends up going back to Spain with him. I don't know if that's spoiling it for you, but
it does say that she kind of leaves for a while, but then comes back again. I think she might, so it obviously doesn't last. But
you just look at this guy in this bad wig and fake tan and this dreadful Spanish accent, and you just think, what, other than him being a millionaire surgeon in Europe, well, maybe that's what she saw in him. I don't know, but surely Laura would have had a bit more about her to fall for someone a bit more realistic than that.
Because there's a character called Dr. Susan Richards who comes in,
she's good.
She's supposed to be Spanish as well, or is she Spanish?
Well, look, she's just come from.
She certainly worked with him anyway.
Yeah, she worked with him, and she's just come from, I think, is it Noumea, which is those islands that are they French speaking islands actually, just off the coast, further, more like the Anyway, I remember looking it up at the time because I'd never heard of Noumea, and it's a holiday resort on an island not that far from Australia, but I think it's French speaking. But that's where she'd worked in the hospital with him, wasn't it?
Yeah. Before we jump to the nurses and stuff, that there is Dr. Snape who comes in, and he's Dr. Vincent Snape. He's in it for a couple of 2 or 3 years.
He's such
he's so
horrible, like a bald little man with a bow tie that's correcting everybody all the time, isn't he?
But then he makes a pass on Laura.
Yeah,
and Laura's sort of like, if you try that again, you'll
your career's over.
Yeah, but he's so, because the episode I just watched today, Helen's been expected to sort of do his work, like be his secretary as well as Brian.
I know, and she's like, I can't be secretary for both of you. I've got far too much work on. And she's like a really old-fashioned secretary, isn't she? Mm. You can't look at those files. They're Dr. Denham's files. They're private. And you think, well, actually, they're hospital files, surely. But she's really loyal to him, isn't she, Helen?
Yeah. And Helen's in it all the way through. We'll talk about... We'll talk about some of the nurses and sisters and other characters, but I think we'll just have a little musical interlude. unfortunately, we're not buddies, so we don't have the executives or the or anybody. But we'll
you need to try and find some 70s disco Bunny's Place music.
Yeah, I'll get AI on it.
One thing that I really noticed, I don't know whether you have, but I suppose because they were quite limited with the budget, and I think everybody said that about Young Doctors, but have you noticed that when they're in anybody's house or anything outside of the hospital, there's never a window? You just have the curtains drawn, and there's like there's some sets where they've put things like beach mats on the wall to make it look like blinds, or the curtains are always drawn. It's just like
you see Helen's house you see Helen's house quite a lot, and
there's never a window. There's a door, but you never get to see what's on the other side of the door. But because obviously one of the things always makes me laugh on Sons and Daughters is whenever they open the front door, you can see there's like a painted screen behind them.
I remember that from Neighbours as well, or certainly early Neighbours. Before we a couple of things that come to mind before we jump over to some of the nurses and things is that there was a Sons and Daughters album as well, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
But yet less reason to do one. There's no singing in Sons and Daughters, but they did do an album. With Young Doctors, it would sort of make more sense. But I feel like at the point that I'm at, because when it's sort of, having watched 167 episodes, it's not the end of, because it started at the end of a year and then it got continued. And as you say, I think the box set ends just before the end of the 1977 season. And they're even referring to things that happened in the show, like, we've known each other for years, and you think, well, you met in like the early episode, so really that's about 9 months ago. But they are because I think it's because characters come and go, and almost to reintroduce them. I guess it might be a false sort of makes the viewers who may have not seen the characters, these people know each other well, sort of thing.
And I suppose it's one of those things as well that, firstly, they didn't have the internet to check up and Google what they'd already done. And they probably didn't even imagine that somebody 50 years later would be watching it in such detail
or so many episodes in one night.
But
I think the point I've hit is that there's a few kind of like so doctors. There's that because you've got Dr. John Somerville who is supposed to be marrying Grace,
Sister Scott.
Sister Scott, and but then there's Dr. Chris Piper, who's a bit sort of.
Oh, Chris Piper! Now he was another heartthrob in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'm not really getting it, but I see that he's in it for quite a while. At the moment.
And he was another one that was a singer.
Yeah.
And I think he had a couple of hits, and maybe not so much like a teenage heartthrob, but more like the what would they have described it as back then, Paul? Like the housewife's choice or something. Housewife's favourite.
But I mean, they're pretty sort of, so some of these other characters come in, they may have more reason for being cast than we would realise. Because they're well known in some other way.
What you've got coming with Chris Piper, which I don't want to spoil it for you, but you've got. I wouldn't. Is it? Well, I would nearly said love triangle, but there's 4 of them. It's actually a love quadrangle. So you've got 2 nurses. I love X. Yeah, well, with some of these shows, it's more like a spider's web, isn't it? But Chris Piper has a relationship with Lisa Brooks, and that's like a really passionate. They're constantly fighting and constantly arguing, but they love each other. But then she finishes with him and takes up with Dr. Tony Garcia, and then they're going to get married. But then Tanya's really in love with Tony. So you've then got the kind of Chris is with Lisa, but Lisa's with Tony, but Tanya's in love with Tony, and it's like it's a bit hard to keep up at one point with who's. Like nobody's with anybody that kind of loves them.
Because I sort of remember I mean, to give it its due, it did kind of. It's not one of those shows that all of the famous all the famous characters are at the start. I think there were some characters like was it Dr. Ben Fielding or Dr. Peter Holland in the sort of
they come later.
They come later, but they were quite well-known faces from the show, as was Alan Dale. I remember him being in it as Dr. John Forrest, and he was a bit later on, but of course became Jim Robinson in Neighbours, and then went on to being a massive star in America. And there were lots of people like Peter Bensley were in it later on. And then people who
your favourite Jackie Woodburn.
Yeah. I mean,
she's in it for quite a while.
There were quite a few people who went on to Prisoner and Sons and Daughters.
I think, in fact, when Sons and Daughters ended, there was a number of them that went into Prisoner almost kind of straight afterwards. It's almost like did you say production ended 82, 83?
Yeah, Babs McMillan, didn't she? She went into
and Genevieve Lemon, and there was quite a few. And similarly, that happened with Cop Shop as well. When that finished, a number of them came into Prisoner. So we've mentioned Bunny's Place, but have you encountered the Bamboo Rooms yet?
I'm not sure. There has been another restaurant that they sometimes
Yes,
go
that's
to.
it. The Bamboo
which
Rooms.
looks like they've.
It's fantastic. So all they've done is they've got like a red bulb and a green bulb. So you've got different coloured lights coming at you from different angles, and then they put some bamboo matting up and a couple of big parlour palms in the background, and suddenly this other restaurant, nightclub, cabaret bar.
It's where they go to talk about people when they can't go to Bunny's to talk about people.
Yes, but the same people are also having lunch at the Bamboo Rooms.
Yeah, because this happened to. Yeah, you have to be if you want to gossip about somebody who works at Bunny's, you need to go to the Bamboo Rooms.
You go to the Bamboo Rooms, but then guess what?
They might be there
at the next table having a meal as well. But it was interesting because they keep playing the same track in the background at the Bamboo Rooms. And I got Shazam out, and it's actually a track by Les Baxter, who's like a bit of a 60s jazz artist. And I actually downloaded it, but it's not available now on iTunes. So, so that's interesting that they've got a bit of Les Baxter music going on in the background. It maybe shows it's a bit classier. It's a bit of a higher.
Yeah. I do love how gossipy young Doctor is. I love all the. Sometimes you feel like you feel like
you're there.
You're there, yeah. With all the sort of.
So maybe we need to mention the biggest gossip in the whole program. Who we've not mentioned yet, Ada Simmons. So Ada runs the kiosk. You've got to have a kiosk in a hospital, haven't you? Where else are you going to get your your coffee and your wagon wheel and your. A lot of them get sandwiches. Doesn't she do things like curried lettuce or something? Curried lettuce sandwich or something?
I'm not sure.
Something like that.
I know we said that her husband was played by the guy who played Spider in Sunspot.
Yeah.
But,
Arthur.
but there's also a lot of humour, and it's often to do with Ada, where
she gets things wrong, she mishears things.
This whole plot, there's that plot line where there was a puppy going around, and she's hiding the puppy underneath. She's hiding the puppy underneath the counter, and it keeps barking, and she pretends that she's got a bad cough.
And then she wears some of the most outrageous clothes, and I mean, for your listeners, she's got to be at least 60, a 60-plus woman with dyed, permed red hair, and she's in these green. They look like hand knitted or really various things with this tabard over it every day, and these glasses. Nobody can pull a face like Ada. When she's shocked, and they do a zoom in on her face because she's seen something. You'll love it because. When Nurse Lisa Brooks arrives, if you've not already got to that bit yet.
They're related.
Yes, that's my niece.
Yeah.
Wait till the mother comes into it, who's Ada's sister.
No. I was just looking that Gwen Plum was 89 when she died in 2002. So that means she was about 69 when the show ended. So she's probably in her early 60s in the early episodes.
Yeah. And I do remember, because I did watch the last episode, although I'd long given up on the Young Doctors by the time it finished. But she's actually, it's really poignant. She's the final scene. The hospital's closed down. Yeah. I think maybe they've decided that the building's not fit and they've moved somewhere else. And she's like walking around the hospital kind of thinking this has been, and like maybe Ada's retiring as well, because if she's late 60s, it's like time to go home, and I don't know whether Arthur's still alive by then, but she's retiring. It's the end of her working career, and she's like remembering all the people that she worked with over the years and all the gossip. I mean, she probably pissed them all off from all the gossiping, but she's reminiscing, and it's quite. I think the final scene is her walking away from the kiosk and the lights fade.
I remember the lights going down. Yeah, I remember seeing it at the time, but I have seen it since as well. But
it is really moving.
Well, talking about her, Lisa Brooks, played by Paula Duncan, I sort of felt like they were, although Jill is still in it, they
sidelined Jill for Lisa, didn't they?
They've sidelined Jill a bit.
The thing is, you can tell as soon as Lisa comes into it that she's like going to be like the main nurse or one of the main characters.
Yeah, because I really like Jill, but Lisa is a very strong character, so you can see that they can't cope with having two really strong.
Apparently, Crawford's really liked Paula Duncan and liked her that much that they offered her more money to leave the Young Doctors for Cop Shop.
Yeah,
because they wanted her to be the like the leading female character in Cop Shop, so they poached her and she left.
Well,
at which point sorts out the love hexagon with Tony and Tanya and Chris Piper, because they can just pull Lisa out and then it all collapses.
Now, of course, you've got Cornelia Francis. We've talked a bit about her sister Scott.
She's so acerbic, isn't she?
She in the same way as they did with. I mean, she's not evil like the Freak, but they do show her soft side. And she does. A bit like Dr. Steele. She gets romantically involved with people who, she gets to the altar. Well, there isn't an altar because they're not in a church, but she gets.
And I seem to think doesn't she have some good scenes with JoJo, because JoJo was always a bit frightened of her, or a bit like she watched what she said when she was around Sister Scott, but I can't remember. It might be to do with maybe JoJo's really friendly to her after she's raped or something. But her and JoJo get a bit of more of a friendship. It's a bit more of an equal thing, and it's like they respect each other then.
Yeah. There's some plot going on at the moment I'm watching where that Dr. John thingy,
Dr. John Somerville,
yeah, kind of, because there's a thing where she gets a bit drunk because she thinks that because Dr. Somerville knows Helen as well, and Grace thinks that they both kind of love him a bit, or quite a lot, but and Grace thinks that John is going to propose to Helen, but then proposes to her. But then there's this weird thing where Helen overhears a phone call to do with his wife back in London, because Grace says yes, she'll marry him.
That's right.
And go back in 6 months, but
he's already married.
But he's supposed to be already married, and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen next. And I worry about the fact that my box set might cut off before I find out.
No. That definitely gets resolved. What doesn't get resolved is I seem to think one of the last episodes on the box set is Lisa and Tony are having their engagement party. Guess where?
Bunnies.
Over the road at Bunnies.
Yeah.
And they're all there in their 1970s gowns, and the men have all got big velvet dicky bows on, and everybody's all tarted up for it. And Tony says something like, "Oh, there isn't going to be a wedding. The wedding's off." Yeah. And you just get this the camera just zooms in on Ada looking shocked, and then you've got Chris Piper there, and he's like, yes, the wedding's off because I've still been seeing Lisa on the side. And then there's a zoom in on Tanya because she's like, Tony's going to be available. So you've got like it's like a triple camera zoom on different characters. And I seem to think that's about where it cuts off.
Yeah, there are some. One of my favourite plot lines is to do with Grace is Sister Scott is when someone starts impersonating her, and people are kind of
making phone calls.
Like she'll ring into the voice will be like saying cancel so and so, or make a booking in Bunnies for 100 people, or whatever, and everyone gets really pissed with her. And she's like, I'm not doing it.
But what's quite funny is they'll be like, well, Sister Scott rang us and told us. And it's like, but you know that there's somebody impersonating her, and yet she's just rung you and told you to do something ridiculous. And you've gone ahead and done it.
and then when you find out who it is, they just walk in on her.
I know, and it's so badly done because we've got to say that the actress that's playing the other matron who's impersonating her is one of our favourites. It's Jeannie Drynan, who was in Muriel's Wedding and also plays a really memorable role in Prisoner as the lesbian solicitor in the early episodes. So she's playing this other sister, and there's this really bad scene where they catch her out impersonating Sister Scott on a phone call, but it's quite clearly the voice with her back to it. But the voice has clearly been dubbed so that it really is Cornelia Francis speaking. It's really badly done. But when I say it's badly done,
it's amazing.
Fantastic. It's amazing. It's fantastic. It's the best thing you've ever seen. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. But one of the characters who is kind of, I liked her, and I remembered her in it from years later, but there's very little about her. Sister Suzanne Gibbs, played by Suzanne Stewart. She doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
Well, I don't think she was an actress. I'm sure I've seen or read, or maybe it's in the DVD notes, that she actually joined the show because she was a former nurse, and I think they had her as a bit of a. This is quite clever of them, really. They had her as an extra, or maybe she was like a 50-worder. But they had her there so that she could tell them whether they were being authentic or not to hospital procedures. But then they ended up giving her a role.
Yeah, and she's really. You wouldn't know that I think she's really good. So far, what I've seen, that she's certainly a good supporting character.
She definitely ends up staying in it for quite a long time.
Yes.
And becomes quite a prominent after Grace Scott.
She's in she's in the title sequence by the end.
Yeah. She becomes a major character, and to think, I suppose that's a bit like Lou Kelly in Prisoner, isn't it? Where someone maybe starts out as a background character, but then they realise actually this person can act, and they've got the screen presence, and they give them a bit of and then it kind of develops the character.
And of course, the other. She starts off as a nurse. We've mentioned Tanya Livingston, who's played by Judy McBurney, who was a big part of Prisoner. And she's a bit. There are similarities with Pixie in that she's that sort of sweet-natured person.
It's quite hard when you watch her, having seen Pixie in Prisoner. It's hard to watch her and not think that it is Pixie because her voice is quite similar. But I mean, I guess Tanya's a bit more. She's a nurse, so she's obviously a bit more intelligent and a bit more. Not that Pixie wasn't intelligent, but I suppose Pixie was a ideal name because she really was away with the fairies, wasn't she? But Tanya's a lot more grounded, I think. But it's hard to see her in that role and not think that it's Pixie as a nurse.
I mean, she played Tanya not much longer than she played Pixie as well. It's just that the Prisoner has that stronger cult following over here. But,
and it's quite sweet how she's in love with Tony, but he wants Lisa, and then when Lisa calls it all off, or Tony I don't know, they agree to call it all off. Then Tanya can move in and she can get her man, and I think the wedding. Did you have the kind of best of Young Doctors DVDs that were released a few years before?
I certainly had at least one of them. I'm not sure.
I know the wedding is on that, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going, when I get to the end of the box set, I was going to go and trawl through. There's quite a few episodes on YouTube from later years. I'll probably watch those just to come down from my, the disappointment of them not continuing.
Yeah, because it really leaves you on the cliff edge, because they've called the wedding off, but I think Lisa's still in it for a few more episodes, and it's just like, if only they could have added another 5 or 10 episodes onto that DVD box set, you'd have got the conclusion of the story, and then Tony deciding to go off with Tanya.
Yeah.
It really is just left hanging. But what I did to myself was, when it finished, when I got through it, I thought, well, given that Paula Duncan then left Young Doctors to go to Cop Shop, I started watching Cop Shop straight after.
Probably what I'll do. I mean, I have watched the first.
So maybe that's what you should do.
Yeah, I did. I had started my disc of Cop Shop, but I'll go back to.
And you should have in your mind that Paula Duncan is leaving the Albert Memorial and going to be Danny Francis in Melbourne as a detective.
Yeah.
That's the way you should watch it.
I do like that, because Cop Shop, like Prisoner, is 50 minutes, isn't it? Episodes. I do think that they benefit, like Young Doctors and Sons and Daughters benefit from being 25 minutes or
because it's more accessible, isn't it? It's a big investment to sit for 50 minutes.
I find that. I also think, I've been saying to people, I think Young Doctors is faster than. Like, I have watched 70s Coronation Street and Crossroads, and they're not fast paced. Like, they're much more wordy and talky. And Young Doctors it really just seems to fly along.
It is very fast paced, and you get the feeling as well. I mean, I know people talk about it having low production values, but it's like bang, 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 and it's done, isn't it? But maybe that's what it's like in a hospital. Maybe that's what they would, if they were intentionally trying to capture that, then I think they succeeded, because it does feel fast, doesn't it? It doesn't linger, and you can have 1 week, you can have a patient who's terminally ill, but they never mention what's wrong with them. And then next week that character's completely gone, and it's someone else that's come into it.
Now, we're going to have to sort of wind up soon, but I think we ought to mention Dennis Jameson, played by Chris King. He is like the orderly, and he's in it most of the way to the end, and
he's an interesting character, isn't he? Because he's like the guy who never wins.
Yeah. And a lot of the comedy comes from him doing things with Dennis and Ada,
and then I was going to say there's like his little mate Martin as well, isn't there? Who
I didn't realise how much of a big part. I thought he was going to be a character who came in, and then when I looked, because he ends up working at the bar, and he does
because
quite a few years as well.
He gets a job in a hospital and then realises he can't stand the sight of blood and passes out.
Yeah.
So not really the right place to be working, and then that's how he gets the job in Bunnies and stays in it for quite a while, and he does come back, and he's actually I just seen him this morning. Actually, I was watching a Talking Prisoner YouTube, and one of the actresses is married to that guy.
Mm.
and he's now like a big casting director in Australia.
Yeah.
But that was Martin. But no, Dennis was a good character, and you kind of feel a bit sorry for him. And have you seen the episodes yet where his mum comes into it because she needs an operation on her feet?
No, I've not seen.
Oh well,
not seen the feet.
And he's got this quite the father, the kind of father's in it a little bit, and he's a bit not abusive to the mother, but there's a bit of a there's a bit of a backstory to Dennis that he's not had the happiest of childhoods, and his mum's a bit under the thumb, and the dad's like a tyrant, and there's a bit of a story to it.
Because he gets married to Caroline, doesn't he? Eventually?
He does, doesn't he? Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Caroline, because Caroline was in it as a model, working
right.
one of the tennis player characters.
Yes.
And I was thinking, isn't that because I could even though I hadn't watched it for years, I was like, isn't that the woman who played Dennis's wife later on? And then she turns up a few months later looking much more dowdy, and you can still tell.
And they give her a job in the hospital because she was a failed model. They give her a job in the hospital.
And I'm like, oh, so she was the same. She is the same character. It's just that.
And there's a really interesting continuity. It's not a blooper because I suppose it was just done without thinking. But the actress that plays Caroline was called Kim Ran, and she was actually the daughter of. There was a big Australian politician. And there's actually one of Ada's newspapers has got a story one day about whatever. Let's say his name was Bob, like Bob Ran quits or something, and that's like a huge headline. And you just think, well, his daughter's stood opposite you playing the character. She's one of the actors in this show.
I haven't got to. Presumably on the box set, there's the episode, or unless I've missed it. Because Russell Crowe is in a 1977 episode as a teenager.
He plays a young kid that comes in, and I think that's a scene with JoJo Adams, who's one of the other nurses that we've not really mentioned, and she's kind of like she's like the glamorous nurse when it first starts, isn't she? But then they move on to other people, and but she does come back into it. But she does some good scenes with him where I think he won't say what's wrong with him, and he's got some kind of stomach. Again, they never go into medical detail, but there's a bit of kind of hints that perhaps he's got stomach ulcer or there's some issue with him, and she manages to get through to him and he gets the medical treatment he needs.
The character that I've just seen, who is another person who's quite famous, is the character of Ben Stone, who is a bit of another Lothario who works as a chef at the Bunnies.
And that's Tanya's brother?
Yes, Tanya's brother. He's played by John Jarratt, who is kind of like
another big name.
Another big name, and he's in it about 25 episodes. And I've just watched the episode where he's left, but I recognise his face. I had to Google him, and I was like, oh right, yes, he's
I think he's in a few episodes of Cop Shop as well, playing various criminals and armed robbers and things like that.
Yeah, because he's quite eye-catching.
Yeah. Can't argue with you there, Paul.
I was like, oh, who's this man? I don't know. It just does feel.
And that's another one where it's like, who is that person? And Tanya's like, he's my brother.
Yeah.
That's another cliffhanger.
But other people think that they have had a relationship they don't realise. And so it's one of the cliffhangers is where she.
And has Kim Barrington come into it yet?
Is that the name of the actress or the?
That's the name of the character. So there's one episode
Linda
where this Linda Stoner, where this young blonde woman runs up and says, "Oh," and flings her arms around Dr. Denham, and he's like, "You're my niece."
It has, I think, it's slightly the whole. It's very gossipy, very Moorish.
You feel like you're in it. Like what's going on, and to be honest, Helen is just as bad a gossip as Ada is. Really, I know Ada's presented as the hospital gossip, who knows who's where, and she came back this morning and she was still out from the night before, and she's all of that. But Helen's just as bad.
It does have that lovely bit of cheese that that makes it very watchable. It's very difficult to I can easily sit down and watch 7 episodes in a row.
Oh, and I mean, reminiscing today, I haven't seen it for about 18 months, but I think I'm going to have to rewatch that box set again soon. Because I love it. It's like a moment in time. The fact that we've only got 250 episodes spanning 18 months.
Yeah, we could have we could have had 5 of those box sets. That would have pretty much covered about five.
So just on the off chance that anybody from the DVD companies listens to your podcast, because you never know, they might do.
Yeah.
Please, can you release some more, because we're running out of things to talk about really with it, and it's. I know it was.
We could be talking a lot more about it.
We could be, because there was a lot more good stories, and I mean, we never even mentioned. Well, you can't, because we haven't seen them, because we haven't got the DVDs. But there's lots of good characters to come.
Anyway, we ought to.
That's flown, hasn't it?
Yeah. So, as we say, listeners, we have plenty of plans for more chats, and
is that us discharged from the hospital?
It is. Yes,
they're sending us home, Paul.
Yeah, we might get a letter. We might have to come back for a check.
The stitches have been taken out, so you can go home, and as you go, you can say goodbye to Ada at the kiosk, and
I want a lollipop.
Leave the hospital and maybe call in at Bunny's place.
Yeah, I think Ada might want to try and sell us a raffle ticket as well. That's been happening. Anyway, well, thanks again, Andy. And,
you're welcome. Anytime.
I'm sure we'll record before our birthdays, but we'll definitely be recording around the time of our birthdays. But we've still got a few. We were just saying that we're already lots
to do.
Yeah, we're already halfway through our 51st year. It's bad. Okay, you take care. And
you too. See you later.
Bye. See you again soon.
Bye.
Bye. I'm going to be bereft of Neighbours again soon.
Yeah, what's happening with Neighbours now?
It's going running until December, but they're still determined that it'll continue somehow, somewhen. But
are they still filming? Or
they're still filming, but only they're still filming for a couple of months. But it's absolutely top notch.
It's really sad,
because
they haven't really given it a chance, because it must have only been about a year or 18 months since they restarted it, mustn't it?
Yeah, it's because these streaming services, they don't have any patience, and also they probably hope to pick up ratings in places that have never had any. You can't expect it to be a big show in America where they haven't. It's they should just be happy with the ratings they have over here, or the fact that I often think that, well, we should do a Neighbours episode sometime later in the year or beginning of next year, and it's just one of those things where I know the Kylie Jason years are the popular years, but in the last 10 years I've been watching it. There's
been some good stuff more recently.
I think it's better now, and I think it was famous. But I think probably it got better as it went on, and perhaps by the end, by the noughties and the teens might have been the height of because it started to jump the shark a bit and do all the sort of people coming back from the dead or being or evil twins, and exactly what I want. I don't want. I know I appreciate that people say, "Oh, I wish Coronation Street was just three old ladies talking around the table over a beer," and that's good if the script's really funny. But that was then. You can't get away with that now, really.
And of course not, because now it would be three ladies who wouldn't consider themselves old sat gossiping on Facebook from their own houses, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be in a pub drinking beer and wearing a hairnet. And not life.
I was thinking that there are some in Young Doctors. There are some that I've watched and I've thought that was a really good line, or that was a really funny joke, or like a really good bit of banter. And I know a lot of the writers are the same writers who wrote for all the other shows we like.
But there is some really good stuff, and I mean, I know we kind of skirtingly mentioned her, but one of the most memorable characters I think from the first, she's not in it that much, but one of the most memorable characters I think from that first box set is the Hilary Templeton character, which we've mentioned, Abigail. And as you said, she starts off as the
tennis player.
Is she like the tennis player's coach, personal assistant? So she's and I mean, some of her outfits, it's just you couldn't get more glamorous than that, could you? And when Hilary Templeton arrives in reception, everybody looks at her. Her hair's always piled up and immaculate, and then she comes back later on as being like an agent, maybe for Georgie Saint, and like a promoter.
But because that's with the same company as it's the same company that she worked for, the tennis player was involved. So it's sort of it sort of connects.
And that's interesting that given it's a soap opera about a hospital, the fact that they've got a character who's actually nothing to do with the hospital and manages to get herself embroiled with people who end up in the hospital. I just think she's quite a memorable character and really stands out as. And it was interesting how Grundy's then used her in Sons and Daughters after that.
Well, she's she's. I mean, I loved her in Sons and Daughters, and that's one of. She's definitely, as much as I like the Alison character, I love the Caroline character as well. The fact that they're both there, you've got two. That's why I always champion that era.
And in fact, I actually wonder. I do think they got it spot on when they cast Alison, because, and I know you've probably seen, I did a screenshot of Rowena Wallace and Belinda Giblin together. They do have a similarity. You could say that if Pat had plastic surgery, Alison is what she'd look like. Mm-hmm. There is something that's similar between them. I don't know whether it's the blue eyeshadow and the blonde hair, but I think there's more to it than that. But I do wonder if maybe they'd cast Abigail in the Alison role. I wonder how that would have worked.
I just find that I must watch, because she's in that Chances box set that I've got, which I haven't again. I haven't. The trouble with that again is it's a 50-minute one, so it doesn't quite have the same.
I think when you've done Young Doctors, I think you should do some Cop Shop, and then we could could have a chat about, and I'll rewatch some of them as well, and we could maybe do a couple of we could do a couple of episodes of that, or like some of the characters that you remember from it. Because there is some quite good stuff in that too, but no, I want to go back and watch Young Doctors now. You've got me, you've got me, because as I said, because we've got so few of them, and it's really like 76, 77. It's like it's such a long time ago.
I've literally got two more, because there's 6 little sets in the box set. I've got 2 more,
and you've only
discs.
got 2 more.
But with each disc has, so I've got about 12 discs left.
But you've got, I mean, the scene where Lisa's mother turns up is just hilarious. I won't spoil it for you, but she's another veteran actress who you'll recognise. But it's just that they just stopped it and we didn't get any more of them. But maybe one day we will get to pick it up.
Well, we can always, because we are. I think next time we talk, we might be talking about the staff the warders, and we said we'd do that. The screws and the.
That's
and
right.
the
Your
other
favourite
characters.
screw, Paul.
Yeah.
Who's your favourite screw?
No, I can't tell you this episode, but we could do that, and I can also by then I'll have finished on Doctors, and I can give a like a sort of that episode was good, wasn't it? So we can.
Definitely. I'm
put that
looking
in
forward
as
to that one. I might do a bit of homework on that and get prepped on who my favourite officers are.
As far as watching Prisoner on Channel 5, I've got to just watch the episode where Doreen goes off with Kevin for their date when she's supposed to be working, and Lizzie gets drunk. Lizzie's supposed to be calling in saying she's her auntie. And she
to
can't
the person the personal department.
The personal department, and then she the first time she goes, she can't make him hear, so she goes to and the lady, a lady says, "Well, there's a phone in the pub." So she goes in the pub, and then she's like.
And did you notice the woman is Mrs. O'Regan?
I knew I recognized
the prison cook.
Yeah,
it's the same actress.
Yeah, I literally watched that last night. I knew I recognised the face.
Oh, I love it. I love it. That's such a good episode.
So I'm sort of about 12 or 13 episodes into season 2. So.
Wow! So you're watching it's almost like spinning plates, isn't it?
Yeah, I've seen Judy's in it, but she hasn't really had much to do. She was it just because what's her name? Sharon is in jail. But Judy's been sort of glimpsed.
So you'll also have Paul Reed.
Yes, who I always like.
Well, you'll love Cop Shop then, because he is the main boss. He's the detective superintendent at the station.
Yeah, I've seen
for the first 100 or so episodes.
I've seen what I have seen. I thought that he was in it, and
he was a really good actor as well. And he was another one that died too soon, wasn't he?
And he was writing for Prisoner as well.
He was, he was, and I think he only left Prisoner because didn't he have a heart attack or something?
Yeah,
and he was quite poorly. I gotta go now. Bye.
I wasn't done with you.
Gotta go. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Yes, goodbye.
Wow. Really? No kidding.
Thank you, darling. And you too. Bye-bye.
Oh, that sounded good.
That is beautifully done. I'm going to have some orange squash now. It's an exciting one.
Oi, that's your lot. Bye.
Oh, everyone's a critic.
Et voilà. You can always call me.
This is just the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Well, gotta tell you, I didn't expect that.
What the hell just happened on this show? I mean, seriously, reverse it, because I lost it. What's going on? What happened?
75.
Man, was that worth it? Nah. Oh my goodness, that was a darling little shoe. Whoa, I love that one. Great show, Paul. That was a good shoe.
775. This show is part of the Pride 48 network. Find more shows over at pride48.com.
Oh dear, what's going on now? Oh, it's the Shy Life podcast.
Let's go.
I have a voice.
I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice.
We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
UnivazPods.net.
That is so cringe, oh my god. You're a man of culture as well.
Right, I'm going to be usual. Hello.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay, stopping recording now.